It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Army Black Knights assistant softball coach, Coach Jessica Gorman. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college softball?
Oh yeah, to be honest, I didn't know. I went to school wanting to just play softball, so I changed my majors quite often, and then I found kinesiology and sports science. So I really enjoyed the aspect of learning about how the body works and how the body moves. And so when I graduated college, I still had no idea what I wanted to do. So actually, my college coach was like, "Okay, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna get your master's. You're gonna come work for me, and we're gonna roll with it from there until you figure out what you want to do." So once that happened, I knew at that point I wanted to coach. I just really enjoyed still being around the game, and now I was in a different role where I could be a little more of a mentor versus just a teammate. So that's kind of how I got involved.
What was it like going to Wright State and getting to play college softball?
It was the best thing to ever happen to me. I knew from a young age I wanted to play Division I softball, and that's all I cared about. And once that dream came true and I signed my paper to play at Wright State, it was one of the happiest days I ever had.
How's that feeling like getting to put on that softball jersey for Wright State and represent Wright State?
It was unreal. I mean, my coach built an amazing culture, and to be a part of that and know that on game day, hanging my jersey up and doing our pregame, and then knowing they got to put my jersey on and they're going to call my name and my number and I'm going to run out to center field. It was like the World Series to me. I mean, I wouldn't have won it any other way. Playing for Wright State and representing the Raiders, the athletic department was amazing. So, like, just being able to do that was one of the best experiences.
What were some of your biggest collegiate accomplishments?
I would probably say, like, I mean, I was all league every year, first team. I was all newcomer team when I was a freshman. I wasn't very good my freshman year, but that's okay. I was MVP, all tournament team. I hold like top 10 records for hitting in multiple categories at Wright States to this day. Probably my biggest one though was getting close to the NCAA doubles record. Once they told me I was close, I got nervous and I started pressing too much, but I didn't end up getting the goal. But being that close and being nationally ranked for that was a really cool accomplishment.
Of course, how is that like obviously still holding some of those records at Wright State?
It's a little bittersweet. They don't have a program anymore, so I know no one's ever going to touch them. um, but being a part of that, just some of the names that came before me, and being in that category of them, like Jericho and Bradshaw, just amazing players, and knowing my name stands next to them, I mean, it's just unmatched.
How's that like obviously getting to become a volunteer assistant for your alma mater?
I wouldn't want it any other way. It was awesome. It was a different role. It was also one of the hardest things I've done because when I was the volunteer, I was actually coaching my teammates that I was teammates with 6 months ago. So I had to adjust and mature and learn the line between coach and player a lot quicker than you would if you didn't coach your teammates. But at the same time, I think that helped me grow and helped me learn what kind of coach I would want to be. So I think it was a really good opportunity to have. And to coach under Lynn Carrillo, I mean, she changed my career, and like her teaching me is still knowledge I use to this day.
What was that feeling like leaving your alma mater to go to IUP UI to become an assistant coach?
It was hard. I mean, I didn't necessarily want to leave, but I knew, as coach told me, I had to fly the nest and get kicked out of the nest at some point to grow. So going to IUPUI was a little comfortable because I knew the head coach. She was the assistant when I played at Wright State. So there was some comfort, some scared because it was a big city and a team of players I didn't know. So I was like, oh man, are they going to like me? Am I going to do a good job? And it was my first real job. Before I was just the volunteer. So it was stepping into some big shoes.
How is that like obviously transitioning into a full-time assistant paying job?
It was awesome. I had a lot of freedom. My head coach, Liz Byrne, at the time, she trusted me a lot and she gave me a lot of freedom to just run with what I wanted. So it was probably the place that I grew the most. I think at Wright State, I learned a lot and learned the style I wanted to be. But at IUPU, I got to actually implement it and see if I was cut out for this, which was really cool.
Of course, coaching at IUPI and Wright State, how did that help you into where you are now at Army?
Yeah, it definitely helped. It gave me the experience. I knew Army was a place I wanted to be at from the moment my brother came here and was a grad. I knew I would fit in really well at Army, but I knew I had to buy my time until I got hired. At some point, I didn't know when that was going to happen, but IUPUI allowed me to grow the most to be able to come here and be able to produce for Army. I think without that experience, I wouldn't be the best coach I could be for Army. So I think it definitely helped.
Of course, for you, what was that transition like from going from a civilian D1 school to a military academy D1 school?
Oh yeah, the transition is definitely difficult. If you don't understand the military life, it's a shock, I guess I would say. I think what benefited me was my brother was a grad, and at the time of me getting hired, my brother was still here teaching. So he was able to give me a lot of ins and outs and kind of prepare me for what military life was like and coaching in the military. But the transition was definitely hard in the sense of as much as he prepped me and got me ready, I still had to figure it out for myself and learn the ins and outs and learn the lingo and the acronyms, all the stuff that they want you to know here. I think you're still learning. I don't think you ever figure it out at West Point.
Of course, what was that feeling like when you did get the job at West Point to become the assistant coach?
I was on top of a mountain. It was the best phone call I've ever received. Because I knew I was like, this is what I want. Leaving IUPUI was hard. There were a lot of tears, but at the same time, I was like, I'm not turning this down. Coach Milligan gave me the opportunity, and I will never look back. This is where I want to be, and this is where I knew I wanted to be. So just getting that phone call of her saying, we want you, one, validated that like I'm a good coach, and two, just made a dream come true. And I just feel like in the world, sometimes your dreams don't come true. And for me, it did.
What was the typical game days look like for Army?
Yeah, so our cadets, they go to school all day and then they'll arrive about 2 hours before our game starts. We'll feed them, and then we'll start our warm up. And basically, we just run through our warm up. We hit for 30 minutes. They make sure we throw, we get fielding in. It's pretty, I wouldn't say it's super intense, but it's not laid back. But there's like a good feel for where they know they're ready to play. And then one of my favorite things they do right before the national anthem, they get in a big circle and they just do their like hoorah stuff. And it's really cool to watch them be so excited for the game. And then at that point for me, I just get to sit back and let them go produce and see what happens. It's cool to game day here on post is really exciting. Just the tradition of everything.
Who are some of the teams that you faced each week in your conference?
Yeah, so probably our number one team we face is Boston University. They were pretty good. Lehigh would be next. Holy Cross, we play Lafayette, Bucknell, and I think that's our whole conference. They're all really good teams. I mean, every series is a battle. There's no team in our league that's like, oh, we got this. Every day we show up on game day with our league, we have to be on our A game because you never know what's going to happen. They all are really good athletes. And it's just hopefully our cadets are more prepared.
How's that obviously like as a military academy school getting to play those Division I schools and also get to play those military academy schools like Air Force, Navy?
Well, unfortunately, we don't get to play the academies. They don't have softball, which kind of stinks. We played Navy this fall they have a club team. So we played them. That was even them not being Division I was one of the coolest experience to see the rival up front. Like you see it on football and swimming and basketball, but like to see us get to do it was pretty cool. But to play the civilian schools, it's cool because unless you got to ever experience West Point playing them, you don't see how much the civilians like actually look up to our players and like think our players are really badass kind of. So it's cool to watch them come here and see the history, and they always want to do tours and just learn about West Point, which I think is something that's really cool for other schools, civilian schools to see, because we get to be part of that history and experience or show our experience. So it's pretty fun.
How's that been like obviously getting to play those civilian schools at home and on your home softball field?
I wouldn't want it any other way. Like I said, I like when they come here and their eyes glow up and they see the Hudson, they see Trophy Point when they drive in. It's like nothing else. Like I've never experienced anything like that. I think our home field advantage is really big. We may not have, thousands of people, but like to watch the cadets show up in the stands in their uniform and like it's like nothing else. And it's really cool experience.
As the assistant coach, what was it like the first time you got to step on the softball field at Army?
Breathtaking. I think the first thought I had in my mind was, man, the outfield is really nice. I actually think I said that out loud. But no, it was magical for me. Just like I said, with my brother being an alum and my family being so Army, go Army. To now I get to say go Army. Being on the field every day is just a dream.
How's that been like? Obviously, as you said, your brother's a alumni of the school, and you are now a coach at the school. What has that been like for you?
It's really special. My brother actually tried to get me to come here, and I was like, heck no, I don't want to be shot at. In hindsight 2020, I wish I would have done it. So I think with that in mind, being able to be here and be the coach, it kind of brings it full circle and allows me to actually live out that dream without actually being a cadet. But I think it also brings my brother and I a lot closer than we already are, just because we have a bond of West Point together, which is really special.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've helped build for Army West Point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our culture, it's always a dynamic movement. We are always trying to figure out the best culture we can have and what we're looking for. And I think me coming here, one of my big things I brought was my ability to build relationships and get the players to buy in and trust. And like I said, it's a process. We're still always trying to move forward in that. But I think we're trying here on our staff is trying to build a winning culture and get a championship. At the same time, you have to build those relationships. The foundation of any culture is the trust and the relationships. And I think that's just something that from the moment I stepped on here, I tried to make sure I built to help the staff build what we want.
What are some of the things that you've accomplished so far at Army?
Yeah, I mean, it's always cool when our cadets get awards, especially when they play the position that you are coaching. But I would say the biggest accomplishment is just the fact that I know my cadet athletes trust me and that I've really built the relationships. And there's some that I have to keep building and some that came naturally. And especially with the outfielders, those came real natural. That's my position. But I think my biggest accomplishment is just knowing that I know they know that I believe in them and that they trust me. And so they're willing to do a lot of hard work for me.
What are some of your future plans on building the Army West Point program?
Yeah, I mean, the number one goal is we want to win a championship. Our head coach is super competitive, which I love, and she wants to win. So we're trying to build that winning culture, and I love being a part of that. We're very similar in that aspect. We want to win. So we're trying to instill into our cadet athletes the mindset of championship and champions. And I think it just takes time. And like I said, the foundation of that is they don't care how much we know until they know that we trust them and that we care about them. So I think moving forward, that's like a foundation we're trying to do. And I think once that happens, we're going to be a championship team.
What does that recruitment process look like for prospective cadet athletes that are looking to go to a military academy school?
Yeah, it's a long process. It's hard. It's rigorous. We have to talk to them right away about medical. Medical and test scores are the number 2 things here that we have to clear before we can even move forward in the recruiting process. So it's kind of like weird when you meet someone for the first time and it's like, hey, what are your test scores? Because like for us, there's no sense in us moving forward with a kid if they have a medical thing that's going to get them denied or they are not going to academically succeed here. I mean, this is a very high academic academy. So we have to have kids that can succeed in the classroom before anything. They're no good to us if they're going to fail out. So I think that we tell our prospects right away, like, what are your test scores? What are your grades like? And then obviously they have to be talented. And then above all that, they have to be willing to serve their country. Coming here doesn't mean you just come here and then you leave and go do whatever you want. They have to be willing to sacrifice and serve the country of US. So like if they don't want that, we can't recruit them. Now I will say we're trying to get a different type of athlete. We're trying to get some athletes that are more softball oriented, that want to win, and we can kind of show them what West Point has to offer them. A lot of people out there don't know what West Point has to offer. So we're trying not to just find the gun-ho military person. We're not trying to find the gun-ho softball person. We're trying to find a mixture to bring the best cadet here.
Of course, when out on the road, what are some of the things that you look at in those prospective student athletes?
The first thing I look for is, are they a good teammate? Do they work hard? Are they gritty? I mean, a kid diving around and getting dirty, that kid's gritty. Another thing we look for that I don't think a lot of athletes understand is we watch how they act with their parents and their teammates. Because if they treat their parents bad and force them to carry their bag and just talk bad to them, like that's not a kid we want here. That's not a integrity person that West Point is looking for. So I definitely look for those things. And then, I mean, obviously their talent, like, can they perform on the softball field here? And then the mental aspect is, are they going to be mentally tough to be able to handle the rigorous day of a West Point cadet and still come to the field and perform 100%, even though the day has been really hard?
What does the official visit look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play softball at West Point?
Yeah, our official visits are pretty cool. The first thing we do is we bring them in and we take them to the visitor center, because the 47-month experience is awesome. It tells them everything they need to know, and it kind of paints a picture of what their time here is going to be like. And I think for the parents, that's just huge. They see pictures, they get to actually read about it. So it really gives them an idea of what West Point is. And then we do a tour with the coaches. We think it's really important that they spend time with us because they're going to be here with us for 4 years. So we show them around post. They go to class with the cadets, so they get to see what a day in the life is like. They come to practice. We have a team dinner every time, because again, it's super important that they get to know the athletes. I mean, those are going to be their future teammates. And the cadet athletes give the best experience, and they can explain things here that we cannot. So after that, they stay in the barracks, and then we hang out with the parents a little bit more to answer some questions. But yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
Of course, what is that like, obviously, as assistant coach, getting to see them put on that softball jersey for the first time?
It's pretty cool. I mean, to see their faces light up is pretty awesome, just because like they're getting to live out their dream, and we get to be a part of that. But at the same time, they are sorry. at the same time, we get to see them experience that, and their parents' faces are cool. And then taking them to the field and get to do all the pictures and the jerseys. It's a cool experience just because we know they're so excited. And I look back and I'm like, I remember my days doing that, and I remember the excitement I had. So just knowing how excited they are to be able to wear that West Point uniform.
As the assistant coach, what is it like getting to see them put it on for the first time and the last time as a senior?
Oh wow, that's a loaded question. Um, it's pretty cool because when they put on for the first time, they don't really know what it's all about. They're new, they're freshmen. They're just trying to figure life out. But then to know when they put it on for the last time, and then you actually see them put on their officer uniform when they commission, it's awesome. You just know that you're a part of something way bigger than just playing a sport, and you've watched them grow for 4 years and develop into these leaders for our country, and it's unmatched. It's something that you'll never say I'm over this, because every year we get to do it, and every year it's special.
Of course, what is that like, obviously, as a coach, getting to see them represent Army throughout college and then get to put on that military uniform to go on to serve the U.S.?
Yeah, it's honorable, to be honest. What our cadet athletes do, not everyone can do it. It's not for the faint of the heart. And I know a lot of people that couldn't do it, and I know a lot of people that look up to them. And it's a big role. It's a big role they're stepping into, but I think they're prepared and they're ready. And I think that's where the excitement comes from, is to know, like, I get to be part of their journey, and I'm just a small blimp on that journey, but they change me. They make me better. Learning from the cadets and being a part of their leadership roles, like, it makes me a better coach being here at West Point. So at the end, when they put on their officer uniform, it's awesome. It's really cool to see how much they've developed over the 4 years.
What advice would you give those high school athletes that are looking to play college softball?
Yeah, I would just tell them, like, you got to grind. Sports are a grind, and you have to really love it. Like, to be able to play at college, you have to love more than just the competition, because we practice more than we play. So you better love softball a lot. And I would just say, like, even if you think no one's watching, someone's always watching, and you're going to find a home. It may not be Division 1, but it could be Division 2, 3, JUCO, NAIA, all of which are amazing that you made it to that level.
What advice would you give those high school athletes that are looking to go into a service academy to play college softball?
I would tell them, one, that's a great decision. It has a lot to offer you, and the opportunities are endless. But I would tell them they have to be ready for a lot of rigorous things. Like, it's not easy. Our cadets tell us all the time, it's not easy, but it's worth it. So they just ready to work.
What advice would you give those future college athletes that are looking to go play professionally, whether it's Athletes Unlimited or Team USA?
Just don't ever give up on it. They try out and not make it, but if it's what you want, don't give up. Never give up on a dream you have, because eventually, one way or another, that dream is going to be fulfilled. Just keep working. I mean, it could take you 3 years to make the national team, but eventually you might actually get there. So just never give up on the dream you want.
What advice would you give those college athletes that are looking to represent either Team USA, Team Canada, or Team Mexico in the Olympics?
Yeah, I would tell them to get in front of those coaches. You can't represent them if they don't know who you are. So if your goal is to be on the US team or Team Canada or Team Mexico, find who those coaches are and find players that have done it, because they can tell you what the experience is like, and get in front of the coaches. Send them film, email them, keep emailing them. Coaches don't respond all the time, but they will eventually. But if it's what you want, you got to work and get in front of them to make sure they see you.
What advice would you give future college coaches looking to get into coaching?
I would tell them to learn from every single coach they possibly can. pick the brains of every coach they see. Don't be afraid to ask questions to them. They're human just like us, even if it's Patty Gasso. She will answer your questions. I would say my biggest regret as a young coach is being scared to ask coaches those things and learn from them. Not because I didn't want to learn, but because I was intimidated because it was Patty Gasso. So don't be afraid. If you want to get into coaching, coaching is a lot about networking. It's not about necessarily how much you know. It's about who knows you and who you know. So go to conventions, work under a lot of coaches, learn from every single one of them. There's not one thing out there you will not learn from a coach if you're trying. And yeah, just keep learning as much as possible. Never think you know it all, because once you do that, you're going to stop being a good coach.
What advice would you give those college coaches that are looking to go coach in a service academy like Army, Navy, or even Air Force?
I would tell them they have to know that we're serving a bigger purpose, and yes, we want to win on the whatever field we're getting into, but you have to be willing to also look at the military life and be a part of that life. Because if you're not a part of that life, you won't succeed here at any academy, just because it's such a big part of the cadet's life that you have to be willing to put both of them equal. One isn't better than the other. Sport is not better than military, and military is not better than sport. They can be intertwined. And as soon as you, as a coach, realize that, you'll succeed. And then to just know that it's a really rewarding opportunity if you get to do it.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Army West Point softball program app?
Yeah, our Twitter is just Army Softball. We have Twitter, we have Instagram. You can hit us up on both of those. Me personally is just Jess Gorman 01 on Twitter and Instagram. I'm on Twitter more than Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see a lot about my dog. But my Twitter is where I spend a lot of my information out. So that's where you can find me.
Thank you again, Jessica Gorman, for your interview, and best luck in your future at Army West Point as the assistant softball coach.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Jessica Gorman, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you so much.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free